Hello, everyone, and happy 2025! January is almost over, but the year has just begun. So, in light of the new year, I wanted to try something different. Something that I've always wanted to do, as it's a more relaxing way to talk about things that I want without the pressure of editing or having a grand message at the end of the video. It's just me, you, and TF2. Well, as you can see, you might be seeing some TF2 gameplay in the background. That's not just so that people have something to watch while listening, right, in the background. But it's also because I've always wanted to play more TF2, but I never really gotten the time to, or I do have the time, but it kind of feels like a waste if I just play without making a video or anything. So, why not have the excuse of playing TF2 so that I can have it as a background for my new video, for this video, to have it as a background for this video. But anyways, I need to explain what this video is about, right? You might be confused. So basically, it's just a video about me talking about whatever topic interests me that week and having TF2 gameplay in the background. Therefore, I'll call this series TF Talk. Although, it kind of won't make sense if in the future I'll play different games because, TF2 is fun and all, but that's not the only game I want to play, right? So, I may need to rename it in the future, but that's the tentative name, right? The name of the series doesn't matter as much. The important thing is I actually start, right? Ain't that the theme for this year? But anyway, enough about names and titles. So basically, what the series is about, like I said, it's just me talking about what interests me that week, and it's kind of like it's not really a podcast, but it's not really a video. It's basically just a guy talking. That's basically what it is, which kind of sounds like a podcast now that I think about it. But, well, there are so many things that I want to talk about, which I don't think merits its own video. And besides, if you really think about it, there are so many people nowadays who just listen to YouTube in the background and who don't even look at the video. I'm one of those people, right? So I know. Maybe you're watching this video while washing the dishes, eating dinner, maybe even while writing your English essay. I don't know. I do that sometimes too. But wherever you are and whatever your setting may be, I hope that this video finds you well. But anyway, I guess I need to introduce myself first. Just a quick introduction for people who know me and for people who don't know me. Basically, my name is Jake, right? I own this channel. My name is in the channel. If you see that, I'm sure you do. But yeah, introductions aside, what I want to talk about for this video is hope. Because, well, the year 2025, I want to start with this year hopeful. And I hope to share this hope with others, to share these ideas. Maybe it can give you guys a new perspective. But yes, hope. What is hope? For most of my life, I've always been a positive person. And I love that people ask why that is. Almost like being sad and depressed is the norm nowadays. And being genuinely happy is rare. Or people think that you're just lying, or, it's all an act. Or maybe you're trying to get something out of it, right? Here's a funny story. Now, here's a funny story about this actually. So, one time when I was still a freshman, right, we had this GC with all of my classmates, my blockmates. And we've already gotten to know each other. It's been a couple of months of college already. And that day I was just feeling genuinely happy. I don't recall the reason off the top of my head because I mean I'm a very jovial person. Even a simple act of kindness could put a smile on my face. Yeah. But yes, so basically I was feeling very happy that day and they sent a message to the GC, right? About how life is beautiful and you should be happy, right? I know that the message was a bit longer. I could probably look it up on my phone, but yeah, that's what I sent. And it was met by, of course, people hearting it, people who love it. And there are some people who were skeptical, actually. I can remember there's this one guy from our class, right? He asks, why? And don't worry, it may sound rude, but I don't take it that way, right? I think he was genuinely just curious as to why. But more importantly, I had some friends who privately messaged me and who talked to me in real life once we met each other again. And they were concerned, actually. They thought that I was going to, to, and this may sound a bit dark, but they thought that I was going to kill myself. And of course, we talked it out, and they understood that I had no such intention. And it kind and while it was an interesting story, it's interesting to think that that's the first thing people thought of when I was just trying to be positive, right? Or maybe it's not actually such a funny story after all. But I found it quite endearing, to think that people were actually concerned about me. And I even had this one friend who, his words really touched my heart. He said that he was very concerned as he doesn't want to lose a good friend like me. And oh man, that I know the situation sounds weird, right? But yes, I found it to be quite endearing in a way. But if that's the case, if that's how most people think nowadays, with negativity being the norm practically, not for everyone, but for most people, then why be positive? Or why should we choose to be happy? I feel like often we choose to be sad. But with that in mind, doesn't that mean we can also choose to be happy? Uh, let me think. Here's an example, right? A very common example. Let's say you received your scores for your math exam and you got a low grade. Now, if you get a low grade, then you have two options. First is to complain about it, and second is to do better. Now, people often pick the first option. People often complain, and it's understandable why. We have very little control of the outside world. So when things don't go our way, we complain. Because in our heads, just the mere fact that we can talk about these things and show our disdain for these things, it's like we're giving it a metaphorical punch in the face. I'll tell you my thoughts about math, right? I used to really dislike math. I hated it with a passion. I hated it with the same amount of passion that I love games for. And YouTube, stuff like that. But basically, In my mind, I hated math so much I wanted to punch it. But, we cannot punch math. Math isn't a physical thing. So, so I told myself that the only way to punch math, the only way to punch it in the face is to learn math. And I know it sounds so stupid. It sounds like something your high school teacher would tell you. But I think it works. Anyways, moving on. However, there is still a dark truth to this. The fact that we complain about it makes it so that we are making the problem bigger than it actually seems. Or on the other hand, complaining would be the only thing we do instead of actually fixing the problem. For example, going back to the math exam, let's say you got a low score at math. Well, most people would tend to mope about it. They would tell their friends about how much they hate this lesson, how much they hate the subject, or maybe even to a lesser extent how much they hate their professor, instead of actually, you know, trying harder. And sure, things may seem unfair, but complaining ain't gonna make it better, is it? Or another more relatable example for you gamers out there. Let's say you're playing a ranked game of, I don't know, Valorant or League of Legends, and you just get so pissed off from your teammates, your enemies, everything, just playing the game by itself, and you start tilting, you start failing, you start, well, not playing well, to say the least. But I'm sorry. This is just too relatable to me. But despite all that, you keep on playing. You play another round despite everything. Despite everything. Despite all the pain you've been through last round. Or when people talk about other people they don't like, where they badmouth or gossip about others instead of actually talking to them directly and addressing the problem? Although, I get that there are some situations where you are at this person's mercy. Maybe they're a teacher or a boss. But usually in these cases, it is a problem not against the person, but a problem, but a problem with their actions and how they treat you. It's a problem rooted in professionalism, right? But hey, I get it. People want to vent sometimes. And if that is your way with dealing with the stress, I am not going to stop you. I will, however, try to show you a different perspective that you can take. A different path, per se. Now, some of you might know about Damien Eccles. And if you don't, this guy was wrongly accused and put into jail long ago, and subsequently released after a long time spent in said prison. And he also released a couple of books about magic and angels. And during the Duncan Trussell Family podcast, and consequently, or should I say subsequently, on the Midnight Gospel, the animated show that used clips of that podcast, and where I personally first known about this guy and his teachings. He said this thing that really stuck with me, and it's on how people often complain about things that they don't like, and they're adding power to it, instead of focusing on what they want to move towards. But you don't have to lie when you're actually feeling bad. Let's say you're sick at the moment. Don't say that you're not sick. Instead, say that you're getting better day by day. Now, doesn't that sound better? It's funny because I ended up saying these exact lines to my sister who was sick at the time. Now, this may seem like a jump, but I honestly don't know how to transition to it, so I'm just gonna move on and say it. Well, people often ask me, why am I so positive? And I can't answer that with a single sentence, as it is not just one thing that made me the way that I am. Probably the same thing as being sad, right? it's not usually just one thing that's making you sad. And if you could fix that one thing, you'll be better, right? It's never only one thing. But when I do have to answer that question, I usually say that it's an accumulation of things. How I was raised, the environment I lived in, the people I have met, the videos and sites I have visited on the internet, my experiences in real life, both good and bad, all made me the person who I am today. This this positive ball of energy. And a quick tangent. I actually got that line from Made in Abyss Season 2. The villain's speech. I don't exactly remember his name, but the villain's speech, which most people didn't really understand. They said that it was a bunch of villain speech nonsense, you know. And not gonna lie, in in the context of the story, yeah, it didn't really make sense. But for some reason, that line really stuck with me because I could relate that into my own life and to most things in real life. Both blessings and tragedies happen because of complex, multifaceted reasons that often cannot be explained so easily. Hang on, let me take a sip of water. But isn't that mindset on the border of toxic positivity? Well, to me, toxic positivity is simply forcing a positive outlook, not letting you feel the negative emotions or completely ignoring them. And to simply force a smile on your face despite feeling like shit. It's not just that you have nothing to be happy about, but you are genuinely in pain, yet you still smile. I actually have a story with my about my struggles with identity and my smile, and I would like to share that with you all. A few years ago, when I was younger, I had my first existential crisis moments. You know, I'm sure some of you understand what I mean, and 14 was a great age for that, in which I discovered that one day I would die, and someday the people who know me will die too. And then everything that I've done, everything that I've become would be completely forgotten in time. So, for a time, I thought nothing matters. And I was, well, clearly down in the dumps because of that revelation. So, of course, I came to my parents for help. You know, they're the first people you should go to when feeling these strong emotions. But the advice that they gave was simply to be positive, you know, to knock it off, or you'll get better eventually. But the thing is, telling someone to think positively or to be happy won't really help them be happy. But I understand what they're trying to do, right? My parents are a bit old school, right? So whenever I came to them for some help, for some advice on how to cure these strong emotions that I've felt during that time, they would usually just tell me to, you know, think positively, or you're gonna pick yourself up eventually, right? Well, at the time, that's not really what I wanted to hear, or that's not exactly what I needed. But despite that, I don't blame them for making me the way that I am today, as I know that they had good intentions. They're just of an older generation, and things were different back then, and things are different now. And because of that, I don't think they can relate to my problems as much as, you know, people of my generation. Anyways, It's because of these exchanges with my parents that I ended up just holding these sad emotions in, or basically forcing upon a happy outlook. And of course, I wasn't sad all the time, but I was just hit by these emotions, by this existential crisis nonsense a lot back then. Or I would have a lot of moments back then, and of course, I wouldn't know how to deal with it other than to just keep it in and keep smiling away. Uh, hmm. And moving forward, in my senior year in high school, there was this moment, and it was a very big moment of revelation for me. Uh, I was in class and I was having a really bad day. We all have those bad days where nothing seems to go your way. I forgot exactly why I was sad. Probably a mix of multiple things, but I was really feeling it that day. I wasn't really in the mood to think positively, and I just want to sit with these emotions to think about them. But then a classmate of mine walked up to me to talk to me about some random thing that I don't really remember. And then immediately, as I turned to look at his face, a smile just grows on my face. And it's weird. It's almost like my body is trained to put a smile on despite what I feel as long as I'm talking to a person. It's almost like I'm forced to put a mask on. Because really, I was still feeling like shit at the time, but this smile won't just go away. And as soon as the conversation ended, well, and I was left to my own devices, you know, the smile went away just as soon as it came. And that moment really made me think, am I really happy? Or am I just forcing it? And for most of that year, I was stuck contemplating, thinking about whether I am truly happy or I'm just trained to be happy in a way. But I will say, thankfully, during that year, I had the answer to this question that I kept pestering myself with. And it's with the help of my friends. Two of them, actually. There were two distinct moments that helped me realize how I truly feel about myself and this smile of mine. The first one was when I was walking home with a friend. We'll call him Jay. Yeah, Jay. So I was talking about. So I was just. So we were talking about. Or So I was talking about this problem that I was having this year, about how I feel like my smile isn't really genuine and I'm just forcing it upon myself, and how I want to change that. How I want to start not smiling. I guess that's one way of putting it. And then my friend Jay, he immediately says, "But why? Your smile is lovely. Why would you like Why would you want to change that? Or why would you like to hide it?" And that made me think, because it seems like people don't think my smile is fake. In fact, they quite like my smile. Of course, the smiling when I'm sad thing and I don't really feel happy thing is a problem, but I don't think the problem is in my smile itself. And the second moment that really helped me understand myself and how I truly feel is this conversation with my friend. I'll call him P for now. And we were having this long conversation about identity and what it actually means, and who my real self is, online through messaging. And I don't think I'll get into the entire conversation. It was really helpful though. But his last message this last message of him really made an impact. And it was so good, I even printed it out. He said, "This is you, the real you." And my God, I just had a whole revelation in that moment. And I'm very thankful for that, because it was those two moments that made me realize that maybe this smile of mine isn't really a problem. Maybe the smile is genuinely. Maybe the smile is genuine. And maybe I am just a very happy person. And I just had a lot of emotions that I needed to sort through, especially going through puberty, as it is a very transformative part of someone's life. Very confusing, you know, with our brains still developing, and a lot of new information about life in general being laid upon us. And yeah, those moments, both the good and the bad, made me the person who I am today. And I am thankful for that. In fact, I may sound like a turbo nerd for bringing this up. Back in the day when I used to play Genshin Impact, Arataki Ito has a line where he says, "A real man smiles through pain." And correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know if I'm misremembering it. I guess that's proof enough that inspiration and change can come from any form of art, whether that be a book, anime, or even a Chinese gacha game. In the end, you are the one who has the choice. You can choose to be positive, not because you would rather ignore the suffering in this world, but you acknowledge that suffering. And yet, despite everything, you still choose to be happy. And to hopefully make others happy too. But yeah, I've been talking for quite a while in this video, and I don't really know how to end it. I guess, cheers to a hopeful year 2025. I hope you're all doing well, and see you all in the next video. Bye everyone!